Hey everyone, how's it going? Today we have a quick rundown of the first encounter of Crota's End, the Abyss. This encounter isn't too technically challenging, but can be very frustrating as random events can occur such as falling in holes, off edges, or simply being swarmed to death by red bar enemies. The goal of this encounter is to take the chalice, the shiny little orb and the dunk pedestal, and move it all the way to the top floor, placing it in the pedestal, activating the platform to allow the bridge to build. This will build rather slowly, so prepare for a shootout at the end with some anti-unstoppable, as there are some unstoppable ogres that will spawn and really do a lot of damage to you. To make this a lot easier, I'd recommend running the Strand subclass as the grapple as a very useful tool, as you can throw tangles and grapple to them and launch you all the way across the map. Using your Eager Edge will also help out, but also using the Navigator exotic will be your bread and butter here. Using the Catalyst, you can actually set those grapple points and then grapple right to it, as it will not take away your grapple if you grapple to a grapple location. So of course the hunters will have a easier location as they have the aspect that allows them to give that double charge for their grenades, so they can grapple everywhere around the map along with their super. Be aware that the Strand super for Titan and Hunter does not get affected by the Weight of Darkness, so that's a very helpful tip. But to get to that floor, you must first navigate the maze. You'll need to grab the chalice and move it to each dunk spot. I will try to use terms that most people use in the community, so you'll be able to easily LFG these encounters. So, a quick rundown of the main component of this encounter is the Enlighten buff, which allows the users to interact with the pillars. You can see all the pillars lit up all over the map throughout the maze. The pillars, once enlightened, will then slowly remove the Weight of Darkness. This is a debuff that slows your movement. The higher stacks you have, the slower you'll move. You'll remove this debuff as you stand near the pillar. Don't stand near the pillar too long, as they do explode, which will turn bright orange right before they explode, usually about the 42-second mark of the Engulfing Darkness debuff. Just make sure if it's bright orange, run away. So you can acquire this buff when you grab the chalice off the pedestal or off another player. Once the energy bar reaches full, you'll then be enlightened once someone grabs the buff off of you. If you dunk the chalice into a pedestal, you will not be enlightened. So make sure to make a judgment call if you need to. If you're at a pedestal, if you're above 50%, then I'd recommend holding it, getting enlightened, have someone grab it off of you. Then that person will then dunk it immediately, and a third person can then grab the pedestal. You will have a Drain Light debuff on you whenever you transfer the buff around, so make sure that if you interact with the chalice, that you're prepared for that debuff. It's not too long, but still make sure you're aware of it. If you hold the chalice for too long, you will then explode. You will get to 100% energy, so you have about 4 or 5 seconds before you explode, so make sure you communicate with your team saying, hey, I'm at 75%. The next person will have time to come over to you. You'll then call, hey, I'm 100%, someone can take the chalice. They'll take the chalice off of you. You are then enlightened. You can then interact with those pillars as you need to, as your team needs to, then whether to reduce your stacks or maybe extend the timer. After enlightening or dunking the chalice, you will have that drain life buff, so be very careful as you won't be able to interact with the chalice buff as you go through. To make sure if you have that debuff, you're either scouting ahead or doing some ad clear and let everyone else deal with the chalice and still keep up. Your strategy should begin with creating an order. Each person goes from 1 to 6, or you can go by names, whichever works best for your team. If you're looking for a group team, I'd recommend 1 through 6. That way you can easily navigate between just focusing on 2 people, the person you're giving the chalice to, and then who's taking the chalice from you. You want to grab the chalice and move forward as a team. You'll have to dunk the chalice at each pedestal next to a pillar. This will be always at the first pillar and then random after the third pillar. You will not have to enlighten every single pillar, but you will have to make sure you dunk in every single pedestal. There's only a few per floor. There's 3 floors. So make sure that you look for those pedestals. Some people can scout ahead and find those pedestals to make your team skip some of those pillars, as you don't need to enlighten every pillar. You'll only need to enlighten pillars when you need to lower your Weight of Darkness stacks, or your Engulfing Darkness is about to hit 0 and everyone will wipe. Once you make it all the way to the top floor, you'll need to enlighten 2 players. Then the third player can then place the chalice in the pedestal. So the 2 enlightened players will then enlighten the platform you're standing on. This will build the bridge at a faster pace if you enlighten 2 players and let them turn it in. You can also just dunk the pedestal and let it slowly build, but you have to deal with more mobs. So it's easier just to have 2 enlightened targets, let them speed up the bridge building. Once it fully completes, you can then jump all the way across and then wait for the big massive door to completely open. Does take a little bit of time, so you want to sit there and make sure you clean up some of the red bar enemies that may be getting you, or just prepare to go through. Then you're going to sprint all the way to the light at the end of the tunnel and collect your loot. So that's about it. Hope this summarizes the quick guide here for the Abyss. Make sure to check out my channel for other helpful guides or tips, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic day.